If Joe actually gained super speed today, his body would start generating enough heat to seriously injure him before he finished running down his own street. Here's how it happens. One ordinary afternoon, lightning hits Joe directly. He survives it, and somehow, impossibly, he can suddenly move at incredible speed. The problem starts the very first time he tries to use it.
Air doesn't just get out of the way for a fast-moving object. At high enough speed, it compresses in front of the body faster than it can escape sideways, and that compression generates real, serious heat. A spacecraft re-entering Earth's atmosphere at roughly 230 meters per second, nowhere near superhero speed, can heat its outer surface to over 1,600 degrees Celsius from air resistance alone. Joe running at even a fraction of comic book super speed would be generating that kind of heat directly against his own skin, with no heat shield, because he doesn't have one. He is the heat shield.
It gets worse the moment he needs to turn. Sharp turns or sudden stops at extremely high speed create enormous centripetal force, what's usually measured in G-forces. Fighter pilots black out under sustained forces as low as 8 or 9 Gs. Realistic estimates for a hypersonic turn put the force well past 100 Gs. That's not dizzying. That's the kind of force that causes immediate blackout, at minimum, and catastrophic internal injury at worst. Joe couldn't take a single corner at full speed without seriously hurting himself. It's not just the turns either. Every single footstep at that speed slams his joints and tendons with repeated impact forces they were never built to absorb. Human ankles, knees, and hips are engineered for walking and running at ordinary human speeds. At superhero speed, every stride becomes a small, repeated trauma. Long before Joe worries about villains, his own body would be tearing itself apart, one footstep at a time. There's also the small matter of breaking the sound barrier. Once Joe crosses roughly 343 meters per second, he's not just running fast anymore. He's generating a real sonic boom, a shockwave of compressed air that follows him everywhere he goes. That shockwave alone is powerful enough to shatter windows and cause real hearing damage to anyone nearby. Joe wouldn't just be fast, he'd be a walking explosion, going off continuously, block after block. And here's a problem most people never even think to ask about: breathing. Air rushing past a moving object at extreme speed doesn't just whip past harmlessly. It becomes nearly impossible to draw into your lungs properly. The same reason sticking your head out of a car window at highway speed already makes breathing feel difficult. At true superhero speed, Joe wouldn't just be risking burns and broken joints. He'd potentially be suffocating on his own forward motion. Then there's the reaction time problem, and this one's almost funny. Human nerves carry signals at roughly 100 meters per second. At true superhero speeds, Joe would physically cover enormous distances before his own brain even finished processing that there was something ahead of him to react to. Super speed doesn't just mean moving fast. It means outrunning your own nervous system's ability to tell you what's in front of you. Here's the part that ruins the classic hero moment completely: the dramatic save. If someone's falling and Joe catches them at high speed, physics doesn't care whose arms are doing the catching. Stopping a falling object's momentum suddenly transfers that same catastrophic force into whatever caught it. Catching someone the right way, at superhero speed, doesn't save them from the impact. It just moves where the impact happens, from the ground to Joe's arms, which would deliver essentially the same lethal deceleration either way. And every time Joe accelerates or stops, he's violently displacing the air around him. At real superhero speeds, that's not a light breeze. It's a wind blast closer to a small explosion, strong enough to knock over people, signs, parked cars, anything nearby, every single time he starts or stops moving. And here's the problem underneath all of it.
energy. Real acceleration requires real fuel. Estimates for the caloric intake needed to sustain genuine superhuman speed run into the millions of times a normal person's daily energy needs. Joe couldn't eat his way to that number. There isn't enough food on the shelves of every grocery store in his city combined to fuel one full day of comic book level speed.
Here's the one part that's actually not fantasy, though. Newton's third law says every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Real physicists who've looked at this seriously point out that if you genuinely could generate enough force and speed with your legs, running up the side of a building isn't actually impossible. It's just a question of generating enough opposing force fast enough. There's a catch, though. That same friction would shred ordinary shoes and tear up pavement with every single step, meaning the one power that's technically real would also destroy his shoes and the sidewalk beneath him almost immediately. So here's what a real version of Joe's first day with super speed actually looks like. He doesn't save anyone. He doesn't even make it around the block. Within seconds, he's dealing with skin-scorching heat from air friction, joints absorbing repeated trauma with every step, a shockwave shattering windows behind him, forces strong enough to end a fighter pilot's career, difficulty even breathing properly, a reaction time too slow for his own new speed, a wind blast knocking over everything nearby, and a caloric deficit no grocery store on Earth could fix in one trip. Super speed isn't a small addition to being human. It's a full rewrite of physics, biology, and basic thermodynamics, all at once. And that's exactly why it only works in comic books, where nobody has to explain where the heat goes, or the shockwave, or the wind, or the falling person still hitting just as hard.